Building a championship caliber roster in any sport is an incredibly difficult task that literally takes franchises decades to accomplish. Things like scouting, drafting, and developing players, signing free agents, and making trades is the main part of the process in building a winning team. And there's nothing better for a fan base who's dealt with pain and suffering, watching their team lose year in and year out, to finally have a squad that seems capable of winning a championship. But every so often, we get a team who accomplishes this task flawlessly, has star players on both offense and defense, and appears in the big games in January for several years in a row, but for whatever reason can't seem to get the job done. Since 2019, the Buffalo Bills have the second best record in the NFL at 52-23, trailing only the Kansas City Chiefs. And every season since that year, they've been right near the top of the list of potential Super Bowl winners. Needless to say, they failed to bring home the franchise's first Lombardi trophy every single time, despite their roster certainly being good enough to win a Super Bowl. Buffalo's failure these past 4 to 5 seasons can't be expressed by a number on a stat sheet or a lack of talent in a specific area. It can only be described as a group of guys who can't handle the pressure, guys who are talented but don't rise to the occasion when they're needed most. In this video, we'll recap every Buffalo Bills season starting in 2019 and explain why they are widely regarded as the biggest choke artists in the NFL right now. Before I get into it, welcome to the War Room. Please consider subscribing to the channel if you're new, and let's get straight to it. There were pretty low expectations for the Bills heading into the 2019 season. They were coming off a 6-10 year in 2018, which featured first-round draft pick Josh Allen as the team's starting quarterback. Although he didn't play great in his rookie year, he showed flashes of being the Bills' much-needed franchise QB for the future. In Allen's sophomore 2019 campaign, rookie running back Devin Singletary was the starter, as was rookie tight end Dawson Knox, and the receiving core consisted of Cole Beasley, John Brown, and Isaiah McKenzie. Given the fact that most of their offensive core was either young and just starting their career or old and almost at the end of their career, the Bills came in at number 25 in ESPN's 2019 preseason power rankings. But the team quickly proved they were being overlooked. In their first 6 games, they shocked everyone, going 5-1. Keep in mind, their over-under in wins for that season was set at just 6.5, so this 5-1 start was really putting the league on notice. The team went 5-5 to finish the season, giving them a 10-6 record, the franchise's best season since 1999. While Josh Allen took a massive step forward, the entire offense overall really just clicked together, as everyone contributed in some way. But the biggest reason why the Bills succeeded this year was their defense. Teams scored just 16.2 points against them that year, the second lowest in the NFL. Young corner Tre'Davious White was an All-Pro, Pro Bowler, and top 5 in Defensive Player of the Year voting, with linebacker Tremaine Edmonds and tackle Jordan Phillips adding to this defensive powerhouse. It was now time for the playoffs, where the wildcard Bills headed to Houston to face Deshaun Watson's 10-6 Texans. For the majority of this game, the stellar play of Buffalo's defense from the regular season carried over into this playoff matchup, and thanks to a Josh Allen touchdown pass and 3 Stephen Hauschka field goals, Buffalo had an impressive 16-0 lead with under 2 minutes left in the third quarter, and this is where the choking began. Houston's offense finally got things cooking, getting on the board with a 20-yard Deshaun Watson run. They successfully converted the 2-point conversion, cutting the lead in half. On the very next Bills drive, they turned the ball over, giving the Texans possession around midfield. They capitalized on this error, kicking a field goal, making the score 16-11. On the Bills' next drive, they went 3 and out, and the momentum in this game was clearly starting to shift in Houston's favor, especially after they scored for the 3rd consecutive possession, again converting for 2, taking a 3-point lead and scoring 19 unanswered points in about 10 minutes of game time. But it wasn't over yet. Hauschka clutched up, nailing a 47-yarder right before regulation, sending it to overtime. After the Bills' defense clutched up on the first drive of OT, Josh Allen just needed to put the team in field goal range for a chance at the franchise's first playoff win since 1995. On 3rd and 9 in Houston territory, they picked up 4 yards, with a chance for Hauschka to kick them to the divisional round, but an illegal blindside block put them back 15 yards. They eventually punted, and the Texans kicked a game-winning field goal on the next possession, ending Buffalo's season. The first official playoff choke in the Josh Allen era, but considering the team played way better than anyone expected them to that season, fans were excited for the future. In the offseason, the team announced a blockbuster move, trading 4 draft picks for star wide receiver Stefon Diggs from the Minnesota Vikings, giving Josh Allen a real number 1 option to throw to. Other than 4th-round draft pick Gabe Davis making his Bills debut as well, The rest of the offensive core was pretty much the same heading into 2020. The Bills entered that season 11th in the power rankings, a 14-spot jump in just 1 year. But again, they proved they should be much higher, because the Bills finished that regular season with a 13-3 record, including 10 wins in their final 11 games. They won the AFC East for the first time since 1995. The offense was arguably the best in the league, scoring over 31 points per game on average, and they were extremely hot heading into the playoffs. They edged out a wildcard victory over the Colts and shut down the Ravens in the divisional round, which meant the only team standing between them and their first Super Bowl appearance since 1994 was the Kansas City Chiefs. And this was a tall task, because the Chiefs were the only team in the NFL that season with a better record than Buffalo at 14-2, which meant they had the benefit of home field advantage in this AFC Championship game. Similar to the year prior, the Bills got off to a great start, as they were winning 9-0 at the end of one quarter of play. But unlike the year before, they didn't wait until the very end to blow it. Kansas City scored the next 21 points and were up 21-12 at halftime. They outscored Buffalo 17-12 in the second half, giving them a 38-24 win. Although losing any game with a 2-possession lead after the first quarter sucks, again, it would be hard to be upset with this Bills team. They took a massive step forward from 2019 and proved they were legitimate Super Bowl contenders in 2020 as long as Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs were together. At this point in time, if someone asked you to predict how many rings this duo would win together in Buffalo, I feel like most people would say at least one. Both were in their mid-20s playing the best football of their life, and it felt like only a matter of time before they took the next step and finished the job. Finally, heading into 2021, Buffalo was getting some respect. They were number 3 in the preseason power rankings behind the Chiefs and Bucks, and these projections were spot on, because the 2021-22 season might have been the best Buffalo Bills team there's ever been. Because for the first time in the Josh Allen era, the offense and defense were both dominant in the same season. They scored an average of 28.4 points per game, third highest in the league, and let up just 17 points per game, which was the lowest in the league. They led the NFL in point differential at plus 194, with the next closest team a full 22 points behind them. This 194 differential was the 10th highest by a team in a single season since 2000, and most of the teams ahead of them on that list went on to win or at least make the Super Bowl of that season. Despite all of this, Buffalo's record was just 11-6. Still good enough to win the division, but maybe not as good as it should have been considering how good their team was on paper. The fascinating thing about these 6 losses is they exposed maybe the only negative thing about this 2021 Bills team, and that was they could not win the close games. When the Bills won, they absolutely dismantled their opponents, but if the opposition managed to keep the game close, Buffalo would eventually find a way to lose. They played in 5 one-possession games that season, and they lost all 5. The difference between being 11-6 and possibly 16-1, or at least getting home field advantage for the playoffs, as they missed out on the 1 seed by just 1 game. In the wildcard game, they destroyed the division rival Patriots, which meant for the second year in a row, they would have to face the Chiefs, again in Arrowhead. If you were lucky enough to witness this game live, then you know how crazy it was. During this battle between 2 AFC juggernauts, you knew as a fan, however the game ended, it was an instant classic. Fast forward to the 4th quarter with under 2 minutes remaining. Josh Allen throws a go-ahead touchdown pass to Gabe Davis, and they got the 2-point conversion, giving them a 3-point lead. 52 seconds later, Tyreek Hill catches a go-ahead touchdown for Kansas City, giving them a 4-point lead. 49 seconds after that, Josh Allen finds Gabe Davis for the 4th time in this game in the end zone, and Buffalo again takes a 3-point lead with just 13 seconds left. They can end the Chiefs' 3-year streak of making the conference championship game if they shut them down for just 13 seconds. But again, this is the 2021 Bills we're talking about. They're allergic to winning one-possession games. Following the touchback, Mahomes found Tyreek Hill for 19 yards, and the Chiefs called a timeout with 8 seconds remaining. Next play, Mahomes finds Travis Kelce for 25 yards. They call another timeout with 3 seconds remaining. Harrison Butker kicks a game-tying 49-yard field goal. Chiefs win the coin toss in overtime, score a touchdown on the first drive, and shatter the hearts of Bills fans across the globe, making them 0-6 that season in games decided by 7 points or less. Just unbelievable. This time, there was no sugarcoating it. This was a choke job. There was no nobody expected us to make it this far like there was in 2019. There was no this team outplayed us and we didn't have an answer for them like there was in 2020. This loss was on Buffalo. They were 13 seconds away and blew it. In the offseason, Bills offensive coordinator Brian Daboll left to take the Giants head coaching position, and he was replaced by Ken Dorsey. Since again, the roster was pretty much the exact same with the main guys having another year of experience under their belts, the team had high expectations and were number 1 on the power rankings heading into the 2022 season. They proved these projections to be accurate. They went 13-3 in the regular season, while all 3 losses were by 3 points or less. The offense averaged 28.4 points per game. The defense allowed just 17.9 points per game. Both were second in the NFL. But the big story about the Buffalo Bills last season had to do with one of their players. In the most important game of the year, they headed to Cincinnati to face the Bengals in Week 17, with the winner of this game having a chance to finish as the 1 seed in the AFC. If you're watching this video, you probably know what happened. Damar Hamlin suffered cardiac arrest in the first quarter. He was sent to a nearby hospital as millions feared for his life, and the NFL announced that the game would be postponed. A few days later, it was announced that the game would be canceled completely. Hamlin eventually made a full recovery, and there was this growing sense around the Bills organization that everything they did for the rest of the year was dedicated to him. It almost felt like the perfect script for Buffalo to go on to win the Super Bowl. Well, after winning the wildcard game against the Dolphins, they would face the Bengals once again, this time in Buffalo. Damar Hamlin was in attendance, cheering on his team, and there's absolutely no chance with everything that was going on of all games, the Bills were going to lose this one, but they did, 27-10. Ending their season in terrible fashion for the 4th year in a row. As I mentioned earlier in the video, it's hard to point to exactly one reason as to why the Bills couldn't get it done in these crucial games to decide their season. They were this powerhouse all year long in the regular season, but as soon as they face someone with around the same amount of talent as them, they fold. That brings us to 2023, where so far through 10 weeks, it feels like the days of Josh Allen competing for Super Bowls with Stefon Diggs are behind us. In Week 1 this season, they blew a winnable game against the Jets in overtime. They lost by 5 points against the Jaguars. In Week 7, they took the L in the final seconds against the 1-5 Patriots. They lost by 6 against the Bengals in Cincinnati in Week 9, and in Week 10, they found a creative way to lose. In the final seconds against Denver, Will Lutz missed a game-winning field goal as time expired, seemingly giving the Bills the victory. However, they had 12 men on the field, so Lutz got a redo, and this time he drilled it, giving the Broncos a 2-point victory. And if you're keeping track at home, all 5 of these losses were by 1 possession. Right now, the Buffalo Bills are favored to miss the playoffs entirely, and the remaining schedule is very unforgiving. Trayvon Diggs, brother of Stefon, took to Twitter to voice his opinion on what his brother should do, and why Josh Allen is only good because of him. A few days ago, offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey was fired, despite the Bills having the 2nd most touchdowns on offense this season. The story of the Buffalo Bills since 2019 is one of underachievement. They're stuck in the gray area that no franchise wants to be in. Good enough to compete for a championship, but just bad enough where there's 1 or 2 teams at a level slightly higher than them every year. No matter how dominant they were on both sides of the ball, they couldn't get the job done when it mattered most. If the Bills want any chance at making the playoffs this year, they need to start winning now. If not, who knows how much longer we see the core of this roster in Buffalo. And if they can't get their shit together, their reputation of being the NFL's biggest disappointment will stick with them for years to come. What do you think has been the biggest problem with the Bills these past 4 to 5 seasons? Let me know in the comments below. Like the video if you enjoyed and subscribe to the channel if you're new. I'm going to continue making NFL content like this all season long, so do not miss out. Thank you for watching, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next one.